was telling everybody I was just so excited to be here. I was here like once a week for 6 years, and then so I really missed being here. And I parked in my own space. I'm excited to see all you guys. So thank you for having me today. So I have a story Reverend Docker told last week, and I thought you might enjoy it. So it's about computer error mistakes. None of us ever done this. And this is true. One time I was, and it's kind of embarrassing to say this, but I was kind of mad at my husband. I don't know if that ever happens to anybody. And so I sent him an email, and it didn't go to him. It went to our banker. I just could not go into that branch for years. That's a true story. So this is about computer errors. And he says, consider the case of an Illinois man who was going on vacation to Florida, just leaving all that snow in Illinois and heading south to sunny Florida. And his wife was on a business trip, and she was going to join him the next day. And so when he reached his hotel, he decided to give his wife a quick email. And he, unfortunately, in the typing of that, he made a mistake in one of the letters. And it went to this elderly lady who was a widow. Her husband had died the day before. Mm. And so she opened her emails, and she fell flat on the floor in a dead faint. And the family rushed in, and they saw what was on the email. He said, just checking in, everything prepared for your arrival tomorrow. Sure is hot down here. Yeah, we really have to watch this. I didn't worry about that. Have I ever sent you a thousand Darcy?
No, I don't think so, but I'm looking for one.
So I was reading Myrtle Fillmore, and Unity has two of the, what I consider the most wonderful metaphysical presences, and that's Myrtle Fillmore. And I love her book about her letters. And I was just reading a biography. I've read it before, but I was looking at it again. What I love about her is her simple faith. Have any of you read her biography or anything?
Yes.
I know Charles gets a lot of attention, but it's really Myrtle, the one that I find is so warm with this simple faith. And it always inspires me. And because I have this long list, my personality, Darcy and I were just talking because we do this the same. We have this long list of projects, things we're going to do, endless. And I even have a file on my laptop with my project list, the to-do list, which I share with my son because I'm asking him to do a lot of it. and so, but I'm always focusing on it. And they're not little things. They're like I replaced windows in a whole house, and then I replaced windows at my daughter's. I mean, they're big stuff, a lot of them. They're not like little things, and so they cost money. And so I'm always thinking, oh, I just need a little more money, a little more money. And in fact, so I'm reading Myrtle Fillmore, and it just struck me. I mean, I've only taught this stuff for 30 years, but it just struck me how much I have. And because I'm always focusing on my to-do list and what I haven't got and what I haven't got done, I forget what I have. And I stopped and I thought, and if I told you everything, every blessing in my life, everything I got, you would say, like my kids are often say, Mom, you were so spoiled. And you would probably say, you were so spoiled. And I would say, oh, nothing wrong with that. But it's true, and I began to, thank you, Myrtle. I began to look at that. It's like, oh my God, this infinite givingness to us all, and that focus is often somewhere else, and we forget that. So I was really happy to approach this topic, that God is our source, and how often do we forget that too, as we try to think of other sources. And we cannot, with our finite minds, like grasp this infinite presence, what we call God, or whatever names we give it, to try to understand it, but we can't experience it. We can absolutely experience it. And if we just pay attention, there's so much giving this for us. And Myrtle said this: each one of us is inseparable, one with God, the source and substance of life and wisdom and every good. Each one must draw upon the source for his or her own substance, and for his or her own light, and for his or her own power. And I know we know that, don't we? We say that all the time. We are one with that source. But I think the only reason we come to church is to be reminded of that. Over and over and over again, that we are one with it. And the thing about her simple faith and trust was because she had experienced healing. She had experienced all of this. It wasn't just theoretical, and I love theoretical. It got me where I needed to be. But it is in the experience of it all. And because we're one with this creative presence of Spirit God, we have within us, you see, if we're one with something, all that is, we aren't all God. I mean, I'm not all God, but everything about me is God's presence. Everything about me. If we say we are one, and I truly believe that all the universe is one, and I don't know if any of you have mystical experiences. I always wanted to be a mystic. That was my little time as a Catholic, reading all the mystics. And I was told my first minister that I really wanted to be a mystic, and she said, well, you'll never achieve that. But I probably won't, maybe not, experience of that oneness, that you read the mystical experience, that all the boundaries fade. But I can know that, and I can know that, and then I can know what that means in my life. And that means if I am one with that, all that is available to me. And when you say quality of God, quality of body, the reason we can say that is because we can embody that. And that's the one we choose to embody today. And how do we experience more of this? Well, the how is to get into the flow of Spirit. And Eric Bedworth, who is the other, one of my all-time favorite voices in New Thought, is Eric Bedworth. I'm sure you've all met up with him. And I do get to go see him in New York one time. Did any of you guys ever get to see Eric Bedworth speak? I was in New York. My daughter and son-in-law lived in Greenwich Village for a while. And so I was visiting, and they were packing to move to Canada. I just thought, good time to go see Eric Bedworth. But I always wanted to do that. So it's one of my great joys that I did. I went downtown and saw Eric Bedworth. But he had this to say: we are dynamic expressions of God on the quest to know and release something in ourselves. To release something in ourselves. There's something in us waiting to be expressed at all times. He said, we may limit the flow of good, but we can always know the truth and be free. Living in a state of grace can mean nothing more nor less than living in a disciplined awareness of the divine flow. God flow is constant. Our experience of it changes with our consciousness, but it is already always there. And so we're immersed in this. We are immersed in this. And how can we accept that? One time I had gone to a conference. I was a student, but I had taken the minister's place at a conference, a CSL conference. in northern, Spokane, I guess, or wherever it was, I forgot. But I was driving down through northern Idaho on my way home, long way home, but it was so beautiful, and I was on this road that was a rural road, and there were no other cars. So when I tell you I had this kind of vision, don't worry, it was not a lot of traffic. But it was like, and because I was so immersed in this being a student and a ministry student, I had this, I just literally could see it, and I can still see it in my mind. I saw this magnificent mansion, castle, whatever you want to call it. It was this beautiful dwelling. And then I was aware of this humble little cottage that I was living in. And I had this deep awareness that that could be my place. All it took was surrender. To surrender, you know, when we say not my will, but thy will be done. I mean, like, how many of us really mean that when we say it? Seriously. And so I thought about that. And I knew in that moment that it was true. If I could surrender into that, that would be mine. And at the same time, I knew I couldn't do it. I wasn't ready. And that was okay. But it was an awareness because I wasn't ready to give up my own control, my own ideas, because I mean, can I really trust this infinite spirit, you know? So we hang on to so many things with such a tight grip. To be in this flow, I heard a story once about a guy who dammed up his creek and just kind of dammed everything up because he wanted this pond. And he had this pond, but it became stagnant, and pretty soon nothing could live in it and all of that. And another friend said, well, you know, that's really getting pretty awful. The thing you need to do is to break open the dam and let the flow in. And so let the flow come in from the stream. And you know what? Also let it go out. And when we do that, to break open the dam that is really holding back our good, that it can flow in us because it's always there. It's always there. And we resist this for some reason, you know, hanging on with a tight grip. And what do we have to give up? Our resentment. And I'll admit, I have some. I have been married, like, I couldn't quite, I always have to ask my husband, yeah, but somewhere between 50 and 60 years, somewhere in there. So you can imagine over those years, I have a few resentments. You know, this is the other thing. And I know, I read Louise Hay. You know, you read Louise Hay, you want to be healed, you want it to be good, you want to be happy, let go of this, forgive it. But some reason, I really like this, and I nourish it. I mean, do you have something like that you nourish? Some resentment, you just, maybe, you know, you should be talking to me. He done me wrong, or she done me wrong. And I am not letting go of that. Could be real or imagined. Do I let go of some job I don't want, but I feel like that is my source, but something else is calling me? It's not, these things are not easy. I mean, they're really simple, but you know, being human, they're not easy. Do I have a fear of people not liking me? And that is often, you know, as we get older, I was talking to Lisa yesterday, and we both decided that we didn't care what anybody thought about us. Sorry, Lisa, if you were watching. I mean, maybe I shouldn't have told that. So 29 years ago, I was looking in my file, and I don't keep a lot of my talks, but I have some stuff in there that I just haven't gone through. And 29 years ago, I gave a talk on this very subject. And there's nothing new, there's no new information in 29 years. I haven't come across any new information. But the principles are the same. It's like mathematical principles. 4 plus 4 is going to be 8. Now, I might get 9 or 7, but that doesn't change the principle. And I did get a lot wrong. And I get a lot wrong. But you know, in the 29 years, the principles have not changed. Nothing has changed there. But what I noticed in going back over that is I had changed. And that's the whole thing. And I know, 29 years, oh my God, faster. Well, it'll be just, I know, it's like, I've been working at this, like on my not any further. And so the thing is, God does not change. That's available to me, that is part of who I am, is always there present, and it is for me to accept that. And in 29 years, what I know a little more about who I am. I know more about who you are. I mean, I always knew theoretically you were God informed, and when we met, I was meeting the presence of God. But in 29 years, I can experience it. I can experience it. So, what can we do? We keep our focus. Because you know what? There's a verse in Matthew that says, your Father knows what you need before you ask. Your Father knows what you need before you ask. Think about that. Think about that. Because we are part of that wholeness, who we are, and the full expression of who we are, those divine qualities in us, that is the divine qualities of God, because we are one with that, the joy, the order, the love, the peace. It is all there for us. It is all there for us. It is only for us to keep our focus and to let go. Because we don't have to say Father, but I like to keep the quotes right. The Spirit within us knows what we need before we ask. And it is only for us to listen, to be fully present. We don't have to do anything. We actually don't have to do anything except to listen and be willing to hear that and allow God to be God in us. Because there is that which in us that knows what we need before we ask. And it is so comforting to know that. It is so comforting to know that. The other thing in Scripture, and this talks about the processes that we go through. I first saw through a glass darkly, but now I see clearly. Now, that may have paraphrased that one now. And you know, if you have a glass, I used to play the world before internet and TV. We didn't have TV. I would make mud pies. Did any of you guys ever make mud pies? I don't think kids would be allowed to make mud pies today. Seriously, but we made mud pies. And then, you know, you make chocolate milk, not for you to drink, but hopefully to get the other kids to try it. But we put mud in a glass, and it would be all dark. But you know, if you keep pouring water in that, it gets all stirred up, doesn't it? But eventually, enough water is poured in it. And I know that that's a quote. I know that that's what that means. Because we think, oh my God, so why isn't everything perfect? Because we have all this stuff, don't we? We have all this stuff. And it's okay because we're human. But we have all this stuff. And so when we allow that flow to continually flow in, it will get stirred up, won't it? It will get stirred up and it won't feel good, and we'll think we're doing everything wrong, and all that guilt and blame. But it's all that stuff from our whole life. and those beliefs that don't serve us, and those beliefs that aren't true. And the more we allow that inner flow, the more it clears out till we see clearly, till it is released and we experience that divine self. So I guess the question for us to ask ourselves today is, am I willing? Am I willing to release? And for me, am I willing to release those things that I'm holding on to? I'm pretty much ready, I think. I mean, I've married someone for a long time, they're actually getting boring. I realized that the other day, because I was thinking about that, I woke up with my stiff neck, and I thought, yeah, I know what that's about. And honest to God, you guys, I don't know if you do this, I'm sure somebody in here does. I know fully well when I am in that place and I am allowing spirit and I'm allowing the light of God to flow through me in meditation, and I am reading my spiritual books every morning and I am practicing this, I feel so much better and I am directed. And now, why in the name of God would I prefer a headache? Because I am so in tune with my body and I know what that means. But so I thought, well, I'm really kind of getting bored with this whole thing. It's actually boring after all this time. So to just allow, because we're ready. So the question for us today is, am I ready to let go? Because it's not about getting anything, it's already there for us, isn't it? It's just about letting go. So I'm going to end with a story that I know that you all know, or most of you probably know. Once there lived a village of creatures along the bottom of a great crystal river. The current of the river swept silently over them all, young, old, rich, and poor, good and evil. The current going on its way, knowing only its own crystal self. Each creature, in its own manner, clung tightly to the twigs and rocks on the river bottom. For clinging was their way of life, and resisting the current was what they had learned from her. But one creature said at last, I am tired of clinging. Though I cannot see it with my eyes, I trust that the current knows where it is going. I shall let go and let it take me where it will. Clinging, I shall die of boredom. The other creatures laughed and said, fool, let go of that current. Your worship will throw you and tumble you and smash you against the rocks, and you will die quicker than boredom. But the one heeded them not, and taking a deep breath, let go, and at once was tumbled and smashed by the current against the rocks. Yet in time, as the creature refused to cling again, the current lifted him free of the bottom, and he was bruised and hurt no more. And the creatures downstream to whom he was a stranger cried, see, a miracle! A creature like ourselves, yet he flies. See, the Messiah has come to save us all. And the one carried in the current said, I am no more Messiah than you. The river delights to lift us free, if only we dare to let go. Our true work is this voyage, this adventure. But they cried the more, Savior, all the while clinging to the rocks. And when they looked again, he was gone, and they were left alone, making legends of the Savior. Namaste.